Hello, I'm Jeremy Barker, the director of the Middle East Action Team for the Religious Freedom Institute. And as part of our work, we've been doing a series of interviews on the impact of COVID-19 for vulnerable communities in the Middle East. Joining me today is Mikhael Benjamin, the projects manager for CAPNI, for Humanitarian Aid in Iraq, a faith-based NGO working in northern Iraq. Mikhael is also a researcher and activist on minority rights issues in Iraq. Mikhael, thanks for joining me today to talk about these issues.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you for having me.
So just to get started, how has the COVID-19 crisis impacted Iraq over these past few weeks?
As many other places in Iraq in general affected Iraq in different aspects. Maybe comparing with many countries, it was not that, I mean, a huge number affected. Thanks God for that. But still, in general, it started with affecting the health system, which is in general in Iraq, unfortunately, not that good. But most important, the COVID-19 affected the issues in terms of economic, and when for a long period for when the government, asks for curfew or not allowing people to go outside. This was another part that people staying at home. And we can say that many cases of domestic violence within families somehow we note that increased. So we can say that in many aspects the people been affected with this crisis, but most important, like I said, maybe the economic is the most part been affected, especially here in Iraq. Already people are suffering for many issues related to economic.
Yeah, that's, I think, important that it's not just a public health crisis, but it's had these
Yeah.
domestic abuse issues, the economic challenges. As CAPNI, I know you do a lot of work in the humanitarian assistance among minorities, internally displaced communities. What are the particular challenges that those communities are facing?
Yeah, maybe first of all, we can say this was something in general affecting all, but like Jeremy, when something like this happened, all the time minorities, I mean, for getting support, they will come in the last bottom of the list, and sometimes maybe they will no one will remember them, because when you have a specific project you direct it to a specific groups like minorities, that would be great. This is what we used to have in past, because we have some projects being directed for minorities or for many vulnerable communities, because those being affected with something specific. But when you have something in general and you come to address these issues, and all governmental bodies they are involved, so in this case maybe would be more difficult for minorities or other groups to be remembered, or if someone will address their issues, they will be like I said, in the last bottom of the list. This is one. The other is in this crisis, I mean, they are, like we used to say, the weakness point. So their they will suffer more they used to be before. And one important point maybe I not mentioned in the other question is there are some specific groups. Those are people not working with government and getting their salaries from government. Those been affected completely because they are not be able to go and work. Those people, they are depending on daily working.
Mhm.
And if you have a family not getting one single Iraqi dinar for their daily needs, so maybe for more than 2 months or some for 3 months, they are not getting anything and they have no salaries from government. Those been affected a lot, and including, of course, many members belong to minorities, especially living in some specific places. So those been affected a lot.
Yeah, that those that are already in a fragile situation as day laborers, for this disruption, as different cities have been locked it down, they've felt those impacts especially. Um, this crisis has hit at an interesting time for religious communities. That during the lockdown, the time of the Yazidi New Year. For Christians, the Easter celebrations have happened. Now we're into the month of Ramadan for Muslim communities. How have you seen various religious communities change their behaviors, and also, as CAPNI, as a faith-based organization, how has the religious community drawn on the resources they have to assist in this time?
Yes, exactly. I agree with you. This was like, maybe we can say there were some positives point in some cases, but in general, like people in such communities, they are like linked with many issues of religious or other kind of celebration. They used to come together and celebrate their holidays or these issues, which is like a kind of people to come and have some social events. All these being affected, and unfortunately, I can refer to one not that good example happened, especially in Kurdistan region, when a member of parliament in Kurdistan region come and make a statement saying why we should like compare church with mosque.
Hmm.
So he asked that we have to reopen mosque, but we have, I mean, no right to put them together, because with mosque there are every day, every hour, people come to to have their prayers, while maybe only some specific time the people need. For Christian community, they need to have their prayers. So this really like was not that good speech being made by this member of parliament in Kurdistan region, and I can say it damaged a lot, and there is like a huge discussion and people not happy for what happened. I mean, in such a crisis, to have this kind of speech, to hear from people, to be a member in parliament and tell something like that, I think was really so bad, and brought to people's mind that we have to stop here, and this is the time what that we need to be together
Hmm.
and to have solidarity, and to ask for more tolerance, or for peace, more peace building, not I mean something opposite. So this was, I think, a very, I can say, a very bad example happened in these cases, which led people to rethink again, uh, uh, if this is the case, so we are like continue uh, suffering
Mhm.
from the same mentality in such communities.
Yeah, it shows some of the inequalities that are already existing in whether the legal practices or just within society between different communities. Um,
Yes.
what about maybe an example of the faith-based community providing assistance or ways in which they've been able to mobilize to make sure that some of the most vulnerable have been assisted?
Yeah. Thanks for many international NGOs. Maybe the word many is not that correct, but for at least a few, even with these big crises happened everywhere, but they still were ready to support.
Hmm.
This is what happened with CAPNI. Some international NGOs showed they are ready and supported CAPNI with some specific projects we implemented, distributing non-food items and supporting very needed families in different places. We supported families among different communities, including minorities and other, and with some kits for hygiene. Also, we have some support for some agencies or some institutions working in health sector. But like I said, maybe some positive points where when people started to rethink if we need to depend on some other issues like working in their field, not only depending on governmental institutions
Hmm.
or bodies. This was in a way uh, the positive way of thinking for people if we have to depend on our resources, especially in villages that people have good resources like lands, water. So they started to rethink. Now it is time to change the mentality of depending on their lands, their local resources, so they will be maybe safe more than only depending on government or other maybe I mean institutions or only depending on NGOs.
Yeah, that's it will be interesting to see what the long-term impacts are of whether this pushes towards more privatization of economic resources and other things. Um, on our last point, in general, actually, it seems that the Kurdistan Iraqi governments have done a pretty good job on this. NGOs have responded. Some of the international donor organizations like USAID has allocated specific funding toward this response. But what can on any of these levels? What are some of the gaps that you see where these actors can do more to make sure they are assisting minority communities?
Mhm, mhm. Um, yeah, all the time, like we said, the supporting people with material, especially in a crisis like this, is something good at needed. But also thinking about other needs is needed,
Mhm.
because in my opinion, especially the issue of minority is like they are facing different challenges related to security issues,
Mhm.
related to education, related to their political participation, related to they to be protected uh, from many things. So uh, it needs like a package of solutions. It's not only the issue of supporting them with building their houses so they will be able to go back to their places of origin. I'm speaking now in Nineveh plain
Hmm.
for what happened during ISIS period, but without the minorities to feel that they are living in with security, and they are like their voices being heard, or their future is guaranteed in the country. It's still like they will be afraid, and nothing is secured. So thinking about minority issues, it should be like come one package to deal with different issues in terms of uh, again their political participation, their existence, how to be protected, their participation in security forces, and also to guarantee their daily life and economics. So it's okay to deal with, support them with material, but again, to deal with the root of problems, which is like issues just we mentioned,
Hmm.
to protect this diversity is also much needed.
Yep. I think that's a really useful summary of um, the broad set of issues that need to be addressed, and you see the failures to have addressed that come out in these types of crisis, whether it's a public health crisis like this or conflict like we've seen over the last 4 years, 5 years in dealing with ISIS and the instability from militias and other armed groups. And so those questions are still persisting, and just addressing the public health crisis doesn't address the other parts of the package that need to be taken care of.
Yes.
Well,
Mm.
Mikhael, thank you for joining me today, and look forward to hopefully being back together with you in Iraq before too long. So thank you very much. Thank you for the work that you and your colleagues are doing there.
Thank you very much for you, Jeremy, and I wish you to keep safe with your family and other colleagues working with you.